Hi everyone, welcome back to the Made Up Here YouTube channel. I'm really glad to have you here. Today we are going to see if I can cut out a bag using my rotary blade and ruler the traditional way any faster than the Cricut Maker 3 can cut this bag out. So we're going to do a little experiment. I have a stopwatch here right beside me, and when we start cutting out by hand, I will see how long it takes us to do that bag. And then when we start cutting with the Cricut, we're going to see how long it takes us to do that bag, and we'll be able to compare. Now, what are some of the reasons why we should use our Cricut for cutting fabric? My favorite reason is accuracy. It can cut perfect lines every single time. You never have to second guess whether or not your seams are going to line up. If things are straight, it's really handy for cutting intricate curves or any kind of piece that is a little more difficult to get in there with a rotary cutter and that you might have to cut with scissors, which is always going to mean that you're not quite as accurate if you have to cut by hand. However, that being said, there's a lot of people out there that think that cutting your fabric by hand is quicker because it's a hassle to pull out the Cricut machine and set up the program and set your fabric up, and it's just easier to just pull your fabric out and cut it out. I'm here to tell you, I think you should keep your Cricut machine out all the time. Then that saves you that 10-15 minutes of pulling it out and plugging it in, getting it ready to cut your fabric. So here we are. We're going to try this test out. I want to thank you all for returning to my channel. I've seen a lot of new subscribers. I'm so excited about that. And that just keeps a fire under me so that I can create more fun videos for all of you. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed already. And if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button down there and maybe give me a like or shoot me a comment if there's something that you wanted to say about my video. All right, so let's get started. We're going to cut the Cricut bag first so that I can take this off the table and have a nice clear table to cut the bag by hand. Hi, welcome back. All right, so what we are going to do, I have a brand new fresh Cricut fabric cutting mat for us to cut this bag out. And I'm just going to take the cover off, and I'm going to set the timer once we're ready to put the fabric on the bag. Now I do have my laptop set up and it is connected to the Cricut machine. I'm going to open it up and just turn it on. All right, so I'm going to start the timer before I have even put the fabric on the mat. I'm going to have to do 2 cuts, one for the lining and one for the exterior. So I'm going to start with the exterior of the bag, and then Cricut is going to prompt me to put my lining fabric on when that piece is done. Ready? All right, let's do this. So I'm zeroed out on my stopwatch. I'm going to get this set up, and we are going to hit start. Okay, so I'm laying my fabric face down on the Cricut mat. I'm going to push it down on the mat, make sure it's stuck down really well. Okay, so I'm going to open up Design Space. And I am going to hit Make It on my project. All right, so this is going to take just a second. I just got to find my project, and we're going to hit Make It. Okay, it's all set up to go. I'm connected to the Cricut, so I'm just waiting for it to connect. Okay, and I'm choosing cotton because this is a cotton woven fabric. So it's asking me to make sure that I put my fabric pen, my washable fabric pen, into the slot. So I will do that. And now I can load my mat. Let's load it the correct way. Okay, here we go. And I'm hitting play. So it looks like it's doing the drawing first. It's making all my marks. It's labeling my pieces, main 1 and main 2. It is marking the centers, and it's also marking where I will cut for boxed corners for this bag. All right, now it's going to cut. So another advantage to cutting your bag with the Cricut machine, I know that after a whole day of cutting, my hands and my wrists get really sore. So this is a nice alternative to have the Cricut machine or any cutting machine cut your fabric out for you. In the long run, I think it's probably going to save some repetitive stress injuries. And with all the other advantages like accuracy, I think it's worth it. All right, we're almost finished cutting our main fabrics, and they are also labeled and marked. Probably about another 15 seconds. All right, Cricut's done with that piece. I'm going to keep the timer running because we still need to cut the lining. Okay, so there we have my 2 main pieces. They're labeled with the pen, ready to go. Time for the lining. Okay, again, I'm going to place my lining face down, pretty side down. Line it up on the mat. Press it down, make sure that it is going to stick. And let's take a look here. Cotton. I've loaded my tools. All right, it's asking for the lining piece now. Okay, so that was about 5 minutes for the main piece. And the lining's going through now. We'll see how long it takes for that. Probably about the same. So I'd really be happy to know in the comments how many of you have cutting machines. Do you currently use it for bag sewing already, or are you just here wanting to learn a little bit more about using the Cricut for bag making? Really curious to know. Leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. And I read every comment and I try to respond to everybody. So let me know. All right, it's cutting out the lining piece. All right, second lining piece, we're almost done. Okay, I'm hitting stop on the timer. So from beginning to end, including placing the fabric on our mat, taking one piece off, putting another piece on, 8 minutes and 27 seconds. So to me, that's pretty amazing. I have to say, I don't know if I can cut it out by hand that fast. We're going to try. So I'll come back in just a few moments and we're going to cut by hand. I'm going to clear away the Cricut machine and get ready to cut by hand with my rotary cutter and ruler. Hi, welcome back. Okay, so now I'm going to cut my pieces out, both lining pieces and both main pieces with my rotary cutter and my ruler. I'm also, just like the Cricut did, going to mark them with a heat erasable pen on the back. And we're going to get the timer started and see if I can do this faster. Now, the pieces that I cut on the Cricut were 10.5 by 11. 11 is the widest size. So I will be marking the box corners that are 1.5 inches at the bottom of the shorter side. So let's clear out our timer. I'm going to reset the timer, cutting the lining first. Don't need my pen just yet. And we're going to see if I can cut this by hand and mark it faster than the Cricut can do that. All right, let's go. So I'm going to start. I'm going to line up my fabric. Okay, so I need 10.5 by 11. So 20, that makes 10.5. Okay. And this direction should be 11. Okay, one piece. All right, so I'm at my 10.5 here. And by 11. Okay, and I'm going to mark my centers. So it should be, my center should be at 5.5. Let me just make sure. Yep, that's 11. All right, mark my 5.5, my 5.5. Going to mark this lining 1. And now I'm going to mark the box corners, which are 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And on the other side. Okay, there's one piece. All right. So I need 5.5 for my centers. my centers. I'm going to mark this lining 2. And now I'm going to mark my boxed corners. 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Trying to go as quickly as I can, and about the pace I normally would if I'm cutting fabric. Okay, so both my lining pieces are cut. Now on to the main fabric pieces. So again, I want an 11 by 10.5. Now in this case, I want to decide, do I want to have which direction do I want my fabric to go? And I think I want my stripes to go this way. Okay. Make sure we're lined up here. All right, so this is 10.5. And then by 11. Okay, there's one piece. And this piece, we are going to mark our 10.5. Sure. Okay. And this will be my 11-inch cut. All right, so now I just need to make my markings on these pieces. So I need my centers at 5.5. This is main 1. And then my 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch for my boxed corners. You can already tell my box corners are not going to be as accurate as Cricut's, but I feel like this might be going slightly faster than the cutting on the Cricut machine. Okay, main 1 is all marked with its centers and box corners. And let's do the second piece. So 5.5. Mark my centers. And this is main 2. And then my corners, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Okay, I'm going to stop the timer. All right, so there you have it. 7 minutes and 13 seconds for me to cut this out by hand. And I believe we were just over 8 minutes and 27 seconds. I'll have to go back and look to do it by Cricut. So cutting this pattern out by hand was a little bit quicker, I've got to say. So, I mean, I don't know if we're giving up anything in accuracy cutting by hand. I was as accurate as I could possibly be when I cut this pattern out. So hopefully it works out just as nicely as the Cricut project. But not a huge difference though. And if you already have your Cricut machine out and you're cutting out multiple bags, It's going to save your hands and measuring and pulling out your rulers and rotary cutters and the marking of your pieces on top of that for about an extra minute per project. If you have multiple mats, you can also load your fabric on multiple mats and have them ready to go. So there you have it. It was slightly faster, about a minute faster to do it by hand versus the Cricut. However, I think I'm still going to use the Cricut just for accuracy. The reason I say that is the last time I cut a bag out with the Cricut, a similar bag to this, just a little bit smaller, I have to say sewing it up was absolutely amazing. My seam allowances were perfect. Everything lined up perfectly. There was no question about the pieces lining up, and the bag turned out really awesome. I'm going to go grab that little bag just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. And if you're interested in seeing me sew up these bags, I may do a live at some point this week, maybe on Monday. I have the day off on Monday from work, and we can sew that bag up. So if you give me a moment, I'm going to go and grab that little pouch, and you can see how nice and accurate that is. Okay. All right. So this is a little fabric pouch. It is actually the fabric that I cut out in a previous video just to give a demo on how I use the Cricut to cut bags out. And it turned out absolutely amazing. My side seams matched perfectly. My bottom seam matched up perfectly with the side seams. I've been sewing a long time, and I have made hundreds of these little pouches. And this one, as I was sewing it, I thought to myself, holy cow, like everything is just so easy and lining up perfectly. I also included on this pouch one of the zipper overlays that I cut out in a previous video, and really love how that turned out. And I've also used one of the tags that I made in my video about using the Cricut to make your own custom cork bag tags. So if you'd like to see me sew this up on camera, or you'd like to see me do a live video and we can sew this together, let me know in the comments, and hopefully I'll be able to get that done in the next couple of days. So I really want to thank you so much for visiting my channel and watching this video. I hope if you made it this far that you really enjoyed everything, and we learned a little bit about whether or not it was faster to cut on the Cricut or if it was faster to cut by hand. It was faster to cut by hand, granted, but I think for projects like this, smaller projects, I'm going to continue to use my Cricut. There are some things with the Cricut I probably could have moved a little quicker on, but anyways, thank you so much for visiting the Made Up Here YouTube channel. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and comments are always welcome. And please like the video if you liked what you saw. Have a great night. Bye.